Alright guys, Denonu here. Just beating Tomb Raider, so I'm just going to give my impressions on it. In this pseudo review, I guess you can kind of sort of say. Nothing official by any means, so don't expect like a rigid, typical review structure, to this. This is mostly just informal, from the heart kind of sort of thing. I know I tend to ramble, so I'm just going to try to touch on some of the major points and issues that I had in the game to try to make this video quick. That way, it don't end up being like my last one, the last 15 minutes. Okay. First off, I didn't know if I was going to like this game. They changed the art style of it. They're trying to reboot the franchise in every sense of the word. So when I picked it up, I wasn't one of those guys who played every Tomb Raider game. Let me just throw that out there first. I played part 1, part 2, the older ones. I didn't really play the last 2 newer ones. I don't even know their names. I know they came out, but I don't even know their names to even reference them. But this game, I like the look of the game. You being stuck on this island, it was a cool idea. Lara's redesign, I think they hit that perfect. I'm glad they didn't overly, I'm glad they didn't give her big titties or anything like that to try to make her overly sexified. Because it's just, her as a character, she didn't need it. Yeah, that's what they did back in the day because that's what sold her games. I mean, they pandered to that audience. But as a core character, she didn't need it. And the game itself didn't need it. So I'm not mad about that. I like how they tailored her look. The only thing they really changed as far as her look would be her body size, her shape, and they changed her clothes a little bit, but what they had her wear in this new one matched kind of what the old Lara would wear, except they gave her pants instead of, the short shorts with the guns on them. So that was cool. The graphics of the game were stunning. I can say the character models were decent. When it came to certain people, like Lara was good, Roth was good. When it came to the people that you interacted with, the big Hawaiian guy, the black chick, they were cool. The other people, let's say like what was the guy's name? Matthias, the bad guy, ritual priest guy. Him and all his people, they for the most part look like shit. The Japanese people at the end of the game, they kind of sort of look like shit too, I don't know why they kind of didn't make everybody look good, but maybe because you didn't interact with them, you just shot them. But the graphics in the game were good. The vistas, the skyboxes, the elements of everything you saw was done very well. It was just, they tried to make it breathtaking, and I like that. I really appreciate what they did there. It made you feel and it made you appreciate the backgrounds that you were traversing in. The sound design was good. Voice acting was done well enough, like the graphics. Lara's voice was good. Roth's voice was good. Your team of people you were with were good. I mean, nobody in this game had a voice where it was like, oh man, I think that voice actor, he wasn't, he didn't try, he didn't even try, or he didn't put no emotion into what he was saying. Because in this game, it truly felt like everybody gave a good performance as far as voice acting. The sound design was good. When you were traversing the levels and the things are breaking around you and the wood that you're standing on is breaking, you hear all those minute, snaps in the wood and the wind blowing, and you hear all of those ambient sounds. However, the gun sounds in the game weren't, I'm not going to say up to par, but I just feel like they lacked impact when you heard them. Like, if you shoot a shotgun in real life, it sounds heavy, it's hard-hitting, it's loud, it's impactful. Whereas in this, alright, I'll give a perfect example. If any of you guys ever play Call of Duty, in Modern Warfare 2, the gun sounds, they sounded like they were cap guns, for the most part. Compare that to Black Ops 2, where they up the sound and all of that, where it sounds better. You know, it's the same guns, but they sound better. You know, it's just like difference. That's what I'm talking about. The guns in this game, they sounded like they were weaker, you know, than they should have been. And it's not a big factor by any means. So, I mean, I'm not knocking it for it. It's just, you know, one of the things I've noticed. Another thing I noticed was this game was heavy on the survival aspect, you know. And it was cool, but you can really see, or at least, I mean, I saw. I mean, it was cool to put Lara in that kind of situation, but I saw that they didn't even need half of the stuff that they threw in this game. Like the bow, didn't need it. I'll touch on that later, in a few minutes though. The bow, they didn't need it. The whole survivaling, hunting for food and stuff, and finding salvage. No, all that was pointless. It was so poorly done that you didn't have to do it. It felt like busy work. I'm going to say that. It truly felt like busy work. The salvage, I can understand. Even though it felt like busy work, you used it to upgrade your weapons and stuff. So that's what you used it for. Having Lara learn how to shoot the deer in the beginning, I mean, it's kind of pointless. I mean, it's like they're teaching you to use a bow that you only really use during the platforming. You could have used it in combat. They kind of forced you to and wanted you to use it in certain situations, which I hated. I hated how they try to force you to use the bow. And the bow is the most overpowered weapon in the game, because the bow can have more zoom than a scoped weapon that you can upgrade later on in the game. It's like it's like every game, every big game in the past year has always tried to have some kind of bow. I don't know what it is with bows, but it's just they try to force you to use it because that's what they're promoting in the game. You know, it's like one of those promotional items that you use in the game. Oh, look, here's a bow, and I'm pretty sure if you pre-ordered it, maybe you got some kind of specialty bow or something in the game. I don't know. I didn't pre-order. But it's just they kind of force you into that aspect, and they try to make you play according to a play style that you really, as a gamer, should define for yourself. And a lot of things that they also didn't need to have in the game, like the survival, aspects of the game, it could have been done better. You never did anything like with you could find collectibles and relics and treasure and all this stuff, but it didn't serve a purpose. Other than just for the fact, if you're one of those kind of gamers, oh man, I gotta, I gotta, get every collectible in the game or something like that. It's like most of the items you get, it's for personal gratification only. That's all it was. You didn't need anything. Excuse me. It didn't do anything. It didn't help you out later in the game. It didn't help you unlock badass weapons and items in the game. It's just like, it was just, here, okay, Lara would pick it up and be like, oh, look, here's this pot. It's from so-and-so and so-and-so. And it's like, okay, that's the end of it. You're just picking it up. It's nice to have them narrate everything. Like when Lara pick it up, she tells her the story. That's fine. I have no problem with that. And explaining the lore. The problem is when it came to the relics, like the journals were fine. That builds on the backstory. But when it came to the relics, what they should have did was, instead of, let's say, salvage, you can upgrade your guns to a certain point, But if you want to get the best rifles in the game or the best weapons in the game, have a guy on the island that you trade the relics you find in the game to, and he gives you the most powerful weapons in the game that you have. That way you can use those to play through the game to defeat the stronger enemies of the game, Either that or make the relics that you find have, let's say, like how they had the tombs, I'll touch on that in a second. But they had the tombs in the game and little side things that you can go do. Have the relics give you that too. Like, let's say, like, you could spin items around and you'll show like different images on them, and Lara will say something else like, oh man, this this mask is this and this. But if you spin it around backwards, it might be something else, and she'll be like, hey, I didn't notice this before, this and this. Well, have that lead to a map location where you have another tomb and have you do something in that. The further like, you know, like you're seeking treasure. Because otherwise, that's the whole lure of being an adventure game, or people who used to love Indiana Jones or Uncharted. They like that whole treasure hunter type aspect to it. That's half the reason why people play the game. They aren't playing it for the whole survival aspect of it. It's just that they like those kind of adventure tales where the guy goes on an adventure and he's seeking treasure and finding things and, you know, digging up ancient mysteries and stuff. They could have done that a whole lot better to make the gamer feel like they're seeking out treasure rather than just going picking it up and that's it. Because like I know myself, I'm not that kind of adventure gamer like that, you know, to where like I've got to collect everything. So when I came across the relic, it was just like, okay, what's this? Whatever, it's a relic. You know, I could care less. It's cool, but it's like, it's whatever. You know, it doesn't matter. It doesn't impact me. What else can I touch on? The story was pretty good. You know, I have no qualms with the overall story. My one complaint with it is before I played the game, I heard people review about the game. They said that what you do in the gameplay and what you see in the cutscenes kind of contradict each other. After playing it, that was completely true. Lara, in the beginning in the game, acts like she's a timid little girl, unsure of herself and all of that, right? When you play in the cutscenes. But when you play her as a person, you go through, you gun down tons and tons of people. Like, that ain't nothing. Like, she becomes like the baddest assassin in the world. And then it goes back to a cutscene, and then it has her hesitate to shoot somebody. It's like, what? it doesn't show a good enough transition, if that makes sense. I don't see how they could have fixed that in game. Let's say, like, in the beginning of the game, as you were going around killing people in the gameplay, you gotta have Lara be like, you know, say, I don't want to kill you guys, just leave me alone, or have like your gun shaking every time you go to shoot somebody because she don't know how to shoot, you know. And then later on in the game, as you play through the game, you know, her hands get steadier. She's mocking the bad guys because she knows she's about to kill them, rather than just being scared of them. You know what I'm saying? She's confident in herself. I don't see how you could really do it other than that, as far as gameplay, because you the gamer has to play the game, you know. So that's not really a thing they could fix on their end. They can try to implement certain things, but they can't completely fix that, unless they just tell the story in a different light of how Lara is already skilled at gunplay and stuff. But then that kind of defeats the whole purpose that they were trying to tell with the story of reinventing her character. So it's not really that big of a negative in the game. It's just, it is noticeable. A lot of other things in the game that it just seemed like unrealistic when it came to a lot of stuff. I know it's a video game, but when I mean unrealistic, it's unrealistic where as you're playing the game, you want to get drawn into this world, into this game. And the unrealistic shit that you see in the game takes you out of the experience. And then it puts you back into the real world where you just be like, oh man, you know, like in the, all throughout the game, Lara takes falls, stumbles, falls for mountains, and rolls down hills, and busts her ass like 50 billion times. And she don't ever get a broken finger, a broken bone. You know, she don't even get cut 9 times out of 10. It's just the only thing that I remember having was like, she got stabbed by the thing in the beginning in the opening, 5 minutes of the game, when you fell on the little thing and it stabbed you through your side. Mind you, they forgot about that bullshit. Because I played through after that, like, I don't know if you guys ever watched my Let's Play of it, but I remember talking in the game. I was like, okay, Lara, what about your side? You have to do something with that or you're going to bleed out. And the game just left that. They, they just left it hanging. You didn't fix that halfway in the game until you went inside this helicopter and she took a lighter and lit up an arrow tip and then cauterized, that wound. That was like halfway in the game. That's like a day later. What happened to that? I mean, it makes no sense. There's moments like that take you out of the experience, or at least me anyway. It would take me out of the experience, so I couldn't take the game seriously. And I'm not, saying that, oh, you should take the game like I want it to be just like real life. That's not what I'm saying, but it's just like, come on. I mean, they could have done that better, like they could have, let's say, do that. If they were going to have her do that 10 minutes after, after the cutscene when she, gets stabbed. What's the difference? She made a fire from nothing, by the way. That's another thing that took me out. Because the first fire you made in the game, she was like, I gotta get a fire going. And then it was like, she had wet wood and timber and stuff right there, and she didn't have no tools to make a fire, but somehow she just made a fire. It's just like in wet, rainy weather. It's moments like that when you see that, we were like, oh man, I know that's bullshit. You can't do that shit. But in a game where they're trying to promote survival and showing you like this situation, you would think that they would have all of that. Like, let's say they could have had the same situation where you press X to make a fire, and instead of just giving you the cutscene where you make it, they could be like, Lara be like, well, what do you expect me to, make a fire with? I don't have this, that, and the other. And then you go find, the items you need and then come back and make it. You know what I'm saying? They should have did it like that. I mean, maybe they just didn't think of it outside of the box like that, or maybe they just had to make the game in whatever time they had to make it. But it's moments like that kind of, all throughout the game, that kind of would take me out of the experience personally. If you were a kid or something like that, to where you don't think like that, then you're not going to pay it no mind. It's going to be a great game, which this game was. I really enjoyed this game. It was fun. I think the difficulty of the game was way too easy. I mean, I was playing on normal. I wasn't playing on hard, but on normal, the game was damn near a cakewalk. Especially later on in the game, once you get guns and once you level up those guns, I mean, the game was easy as hell. They dumbed down the puzzle aspect of the game way too much. Way too much. I mean, the puzzles in this game, like the tombs, like you would think the tombs in this game, because you had like the tombs you can go to, and I just knew going into my first one that it was going to be like the tombs that was in Assassin's Creed 2. Where you had these big ass puzzle areas that you have to traverse, and then you get something at the end. And in this game, it was just nothing. This game, they were just like the regular puzzle areas that you came with in the rest of the game, and they were easy as hell. They were just like, and then you didn't really get anything for them. Like, you would open it up and you would get like salvage. You would get like 400 or 500 pieces of salvage, and that was it. Big ass chest full of gold, jewels, and all this other stuff, and all you get is like a little bit of salvage and experience. That experience you didn't even really need, by the way. Let me just say that, because they had a whole experience system that you can do to level up certain skills. Like, oh, you can use this to climb faster, or you can use this to steady your bow shot. But the way they built the shooting and the gameplay aspects of it, when it came to jumping around and stuff, you didn't need none of those things. You didn't need to get more salvage out of everything. You didn't need it, because they already gave you salvage in everything that you did, and you found it every 2 seconds lying on the ground. It's just that I don't know if they dumbed it down on purpose, but it's just, as a mature gamer and a hardcore gamer that plays games, this game was easy as hell. I would have liked to see the game harder. The puzzles, they shouldn't have dumbed down the puzzles. To me, they already dumbing down the game enough, but they should have made the puzzles harder, to at least to get people to think. I mean, you already giving people, and that's another gripe I have with this game, and that they do with newer games nowadays, is they give you like a detective mode kind of sort of thing, where it highlights the puzzle item so you know what to click on and stuff. Me personally, I hate that, because then it forces me as a gamer not to think about how to overcome this. This is just okay, here's the answer, And this game has a mode like that. I've never used it. I think I used it like once, maybe twice throughout the whole game. But I had to force myself not to use it. So for somebody who isn't like me, they'll just use it all the time and to solve the puzzles. It would be cool to have that kind of mode if your puzzles were like hard as shit. But they weren't. They were like easy. They were like easy, puzzles that like a kid or a middle school student could do. To where it's not hard, it's not difficult. You don't have to think about the puzzle. It's just use common sense. I gotta push this over here, or I gotta move this here, and that's it. That's all it was. And for anybody who is smart enough, or even kind of sort of smart, they can get that within the first couple seconds. So you didn't even need the whole instinct survival vision bullshit, whatever they called it. You didn't need it at all. because that was kind of half the lore of the older games, was figuring out the puzzles. That kind of, was the thing. It was kind of like an adventure puzzle game. And in this game, I mean, it's just, I wish that they took all of that aspects and the survival aspects, made them useful and made them better and made the overall game harder. That's what I would like to see. If I can make changes on this game right now, that's what I would do. Give you reasons for picking up relics, make the difficulty of the game harder, and take away the bow. Believe the bow, but make the bow a platforming item, not a weapon. And then have your guns as your weapons and make the people stronger. So they took more shots to kill. Because the shooting aspect of the game, they just felt like any average generic third-person shooter. It didn't go outside the box to do anything different. It didn't feel different. In fact, it felt like a step under. It didn't feel polished. It was cool, it was nice, but games that do third-person stuff better, let's say like Gears of War or any other third-person based shooter, they feel more polished than this game does. The menu system of the game, it was okay. It took a little bit getting used to. It felt clunky at first, but once you got it down, it was easy. The one thing I hated at the end of the game was the ending 5 minutes. The end boss was weak as shit. He was just like a reskinned version of the other big guy you fight when you got the little pulley weed whacker engine thing. He just seemed like he wasn't no big boss or nothing like that. He just felt he was like a stronger normal guy. He felt like you had like these heavy enemy types in the game, like people with riot shields and big enemies like that. Where you had the regular people and you had them. With these guys, you just kind of dodge them and then you just shoot them. Well, let me guess how you beat the big last bad guy in the game. You dodge them and then you shoot them. It was like the same shit you did throughout the whole game. It didn't feel like he was any different. Except he had cutscenes, every time you had to stab him with a pickaxe, which is really weird. It's like they had moments throughout the whole game where Lara, you have guns, but in the cutscenes, she'll pull out the bow or she'll stab somebody in the head with her pickaxe, and it's like it makes no fucking sense. The whole time I'm like, why would you stab somebody when you have fucking guns? If anything, pull out your gun and shoot him in the head. It was like it's weird, It's moments like that. That's what I'm saying. That kind of take you out of the game. It's unrealistic. If I have a shotgun, an assault rifle, a pistol, I'm not gonna pull out a fucking bow and to kill somebody. It's just you don't do it. You're gonna pull out you're gonna pull out one of those guns to kill them. That's just the way it is. Because that's the reason why we don't use bows in real life. They're not lethal. They're not more lethal than guns. That's the way it is. They can be just as lethal in the right hands, but guns allow you to do more damage and have better accuracy than a fucking bow. So I'm going to use the bow to kill somebody if I need to kill somebody rather than, I'm going to use the guns to kill somebody rather than the bow. That's just the way it is. And this game had a lot of moments like that where it took me out of the experience because of that. Yeah, it's cool to see Lara using the bow because that's what she has, that's what they promote on the front cover. That's why you use it in the platforming stuff. It's like, okay, yeah, it's cool, it's whatever, but it's unrealistic. And even if somebody was trapped on an island, yeah, you trapped on an island, but guess what? If you have guns, you're not using a bow. That's just the way it is. I don't know why they decided to throw it in there. Maybe they needed it for the platforming, segments, and they was like, okay, it'd be cool if she has a bow for that, and then they was like, well, what if we could use the bow in combat, and maybe that's how they got started down that road, but I personally think they could have done that a whole lot better. I'm not really knocking them for it. This was a well-made reboot, I like the game. I want them to make sequels. I want them to take this Lara and this character, make sequels, but make the sequels, now that they got all the new backstory out of the way, they can take the next game and make it more like how Tomb Raider used to be. I'm not saying do a copy and paste job, but make the puzzles harder. They can, now that they got everybody brought into this newer universe, they can take that into the vein of the old one. That way, the people who like Tomb Raider in general as a franchise will carry on and play the newer games, because they might have got turned off by this one. Yeah, they like Lara. Yeah, they may like the character, but if this franchise stays the way it is right now, like if they make a sequel just like this first game, it may turn a lot of those older gamers that used to like Tomb Raider for what it was and what it did uniquely, it might turn them off. So I hope they don't do that. But like I said before, I would love to see them make a sequel, 2 sequels out of this game, maybe 3. You know, continue on the franchise. This was a nice reboot of how Lara became who she was. I'm glad they didn't just reboot the first game and be like, okay, this is Lara Croft. She's already a badass. You know, this was kind of her growing up as a person. Was very good. I like the way they did that. Anyway, I'm rambling on, like I always do. I appreciate you watching this review. Let me know down there in the comments what you liked about the game, what you didn't like. You know, I like to read my comments like anything else. People don't ever ask me questions or hit me up on Twitter or Facebook about anything about my channel. So if you feel the need to do so, you know, let me know. Let me know what you think about the game. What you liked, what you disliked, you know. If you watched my Let's Play, let me know how you liked it, like you disliked it, or even this review, you know. Comment down there, be like, hey man, look, this review was awesome, thanks for doing it, or comment down there, be like, oh yeah, you fucking suck, and you repeat and say the same shit over and over and over again. You know, I like to hear both sides of the argument, not just, you know, the benefits. I mean, it helps me get feedback, you know, by the people who watch my content. So, anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.